There are many definitions of consultants. Indeed, they tend to proliferate in different sizes, shapes, ages, and so forth. From my perspective, a consultant is basically one who has extensive knowledge, enhanced and tempered by experience, resulting in wisdom which can be transferred to a client or recipient in the form of advice. And that pretty well spans the area of consulting. In my view, one of the great shortcomings in this country, and I think it is a retrogression from days of old, is the ability of the average person to give a speech, and it need not be to a room full of people. I've had audiences as big as 13,000 and as small as 2. It's got to be a delivery that accomplishes a number of things, and simply being able to articulate the King's English in a reasonable fashion is a small part of the total picture. Now, whoever is the best speaker in the crowd is likely to rise to the top if he or she has the requisite intelligence to function once she gets there. There are not a lot of places where you can go and become a trained speaker. There are seminars, but really it's something that you need to catch hold of early on. And the first critical tool of which you need to get a strong command is memory. This is not a place for notes or outlines or cribs or other crutches. This is a place to say what you know, what you want to express, to do it in paragraphs, not choppy little sentences, and to avoid the infestation of defensive interjections. A defensive interjection is a crutch, or worse, used as a pause while you try to think of what you're going to say next. In its most innocuous form, it is From there we go downhill to the favorite of most athletes except Tom Brady, and that is, 4 or 5 times a sentence. And now we are inundated with the most vicious interjection of all, which is catching on even in people at their 60s. Like. Used as a comma and God knows what else. But certainly total destruction to any hope of a speech that's pleasant to listen to. So, like a colostomy, it's not pleasant to sweep this stuff out. But you better sweep it out or don't even begin to call yourself a speaker. Second, there must be a recognition of the profound difference between the written word, which is excellent, and the spoken word, which is excellent. And the differences are several. First, the written word is then read by the speaker. Well, there's no need for the speaker to even come. Send your secretary. Whoever can read best. That is not a speech. And yet we see over and over again world leaders reading. As a matter of fact, a guy from the Atomic Energy Commission was in Congress yesterday, and he had stapled his pages together, and a sentence was broken at the bottom of the page. And he had a terrible time flipping that page over so he could continue whatever it was he thought he was saying. His audience was doing something else by then. People say, well, I could never remember all that information. And indeed, the first time they try, they probably get this close to the podium and the knees begin to go like this. Well, you can remember it. How in the world do you think stage actors get off 2 hours of lines without reading from the script? They memorize. Some of that is just brute memory, and sometimes that's what you have to use. There are no tricks of association that will enable you. You know, for years we said that law students generally were people who didn't have enough brute memory to pass organic chemistry. So they flunked out of med school and wound up in law school. There is some proof of that. And while some remain and retained the brute characteristic, they didn't do the memory. And they're not good speakers either. But the spoken word has to take into account a dynamic which is not present when you are writing things and then editing them. Nor is this a scenario where you can do your lines and the director says, cut, we're going to do it over again. I don't know many audiences that would put up with that kind of presentation. This is a business very much like any other, involving important human communications where you must keep your eyes on the target and flex all of the weapons you have, from your tempo to the choice of language to the pace to the volume at which you move through your talk based on what you see. And therefore, the fellow who has one of these and is trying to refer to it every now and then to pick up the next topic so he doesn't forget it, gives up that critical element. Not only is it the information that's coming this way to the speaker at the podium to give him on a moment's notice in which way he should tailor his presentation to get maximum attention and penetration of those who are listening, but it also is important to the listener. If the speaker's got his head in a bunch of notes and is not looking at you, how interesting is that? Not.